Chairman of Council and one of our Grand Masters. I think today he will be called Comrade Pandelani Napolovodwe because he is among his contemporaries and people with whom he shares a very emotive and difficult history. I have to acknowledge our guest of honor, the speaker at our inaugural Grand Masters address. Okay, I know we said they share an emotive history, but I didn't mean create a storm. All right. Now they're creating a hurricane for me, I'm hearing it. We didn't mean change the weather. Okay, but I think the temperature will be right because I'm sweating buckets here already. I was still in the midst of acknowledging our guest of honor and our speaker for today, a man who's not been on this campus for the past 51 years. The last time he was here, Porto, was 51 years ago, and I know the number 51 is very scary to you. But to him, it's just the number of years he has been away from his alma mater. And that is Dr. Maroba, a.k.a. Jimmy Matsapola, who's going to be addressing us today. The sense of the theatrics has gone to another level here. Pardon? Is the air conditioner? Yeah, but that's what I mean. I didn't ask for sound effects. We're making a movie here. Okay. So, you see, even when I introduce you, you cause trouble. Isn't that something? Nothing has changed. Okay. Dr. Maroba Jimmy Matsapola, he left this campus 51 years ago. And he's back to launch what we call the Grand Masters Address Series. So I need to introduce the other Grand Masters as well, because we need to explain what we mean by Grand Masters. A Grand Master is a member of the University of Limpopo alumni who was here since the university was founded in 1959 to the end of the 1970s. So I'll have you know, student leadership, that most of the people here were student leaders in their days. And anyone who's a student today, when you speak today, please introduce yourself by your student number. I will start. My student number, VC, is 850369992. Now, you think that's something special, but I'll tell you we have student number 19 right here. Yeah, gee, I saw those eyes pop out of the spectacles. We have student number 19 here, and he will be speaking to us later, Professor Moses Bupape. At his age, he's still running a very successful business. He was in our social work department, and he is an esteemed professor that we must welcome to this Grand Masters gathering. We also have to welcome Professor Mushenkondo, someone who, George Mashamba, sorry. I will apologize on behalf of Prof. Mushenkondo. Comrade George Mashamba, who also, like our speaker today, left this university in very turbulent circumstances. But he came back and he's an elder of this province, he's an elder of this country, very esteemed visitor who generously and graciously accepted our invitation. We welcome you, Comrade George. We knew him, I knew him in the 80s as Comrade George, so don't think it's a sign of disrespect. It's part of acknowledging our heritage. We also have to welcome in our midst someone who must still visit our library, because when I got here, I got to know about her. She was at the library when I was here, but I got to hear about the great work she was doing, especially in documenting the history of this institution. And she accepted our invitation. She was the last person to be invited, but she's here, and she's the rose amongst the thorns, I must say. She's an alumnus of the university, used to work at the library, and she's got very, very huge institutional memory to share with us. Metogozile Faith Hlatswayo. We must also welcome, everybody who's here will know about our hall being called Nkgopotse Tiro. We know it's named after Nkgopotse Tiro, who was SRC president in 1972 and left also in a huff because he was expelled and assassinated in 1974. But Nkgopotse Tiro was a real person. He had real teachers, and one of his teachers is here amongst us, Dr. Arnold Msimeki, who was the head of the Student Counseling Bureau. When we were here, we call it the Center for Student Counseling, and he is one of the people that I worked with. When I was a student, I just never knew his story until very recently. But if you are with someone who taught Nkgopotse Tiro, you know you're in the company of the masters. He's still a practicing psychologist, believe it or not. So just like Prof. Bupape here, he's going to die with his shoes on. We also have to welcome somebody who's still at the university, Dade Dennis Makudu. He is one of the Grand Masters who helped us to put this together. He's in our School of Accountancy. You would have seen him. He's one of the fastest walking people on campus. He walks faster than most young people here. And from the 70s, he's still here with us. We appreciate him. And I hope that as we go along, we will appreciate that the best way to know where you're going is to know where you come from. And as I said, my name is Victor Khomweswana. I'm going to be directing the program today here. And I hope that at the end of this series, at this conversation, after Dr. Matsapola would have addressed us, and we would have had a very invigorating conversation, Minister. I want you to get an idea of what debate among students used to be like. Kulube, I know you're paying attention. So before we go anywhere, let us ask our Vice Chancellor and Principal to come and deliver a few welcoming remarks, and then we will get started with the program. A fitting, rousing round of applause for Professor Matlo Mkhalo.
Thanks, Program Director. What a moment. It had to come, it had to be this way. I think Vic has tried to mention everyone by name, but then from my side, there is no way I can avoid mentioning my seniors by name as a way of welcoming them. Chair of Council, Uncle Neff, Professor Bupape Talks, that's how we used to call you in the library. Uncle George Mashamba, we have a story. He was my philosophy lecturer, and for some reason, we wrote a test, and I never got my script back because, not that he didn't do his work. He marked it well. I think I got just over 90. Very rare in those days. And like Dade Matsapola, my script disappeared to that side. They were using it to prepare for exams. I never saw it myself. Professor Joe Nell, I'll tell you about the sporting character in him. Then Arnold Msimeki, many of the mad ones you managed. Keketi Makudu, the way you're looking at me, you're saying, please tell them that he used to cause chaos in mass meetings, argumentative, and like Dr. Matsapola said, we used to get a few English words from him. You can't go to a mass meeting and come out without having learned something. Matsapola and Honorable Maroba Jimmy Matsapola. Jimmy was a man of all trades. Over and above being a politician, he was one of the university's best soccer players. Make no mistakes. You can ask those who were there those days. And just as testimony to that, after one game where I think he really outplayed, done himself, strangest thing happened. The female students carried him shoulder high to the female residences. And you must know those days, female residences, you couldn't even think of getting closer to them. And they said, such talent needs to be birthed by the best. Now, they took him there, and even today, we don't know what happened at VC, but he came out quite clean. So that was Matsapola for us. And again, just like Dr. Makuru, Dr. Matsapola he had the voice, the temperament to change the direction of events in a mass meeting. We'll say a lot about it. I was telling the SRC there that if you're not careful, today we have got wrong people in our midst. Dr. Matsapola, together with the chair of council, deposed an SRC, sitting SRC, took them out of office. Now, I just heard today that after that they went to the president's office and they were just allocated seats there. You are the secretary, you will be this. And it continued. Thank you all for honoring the invitation to what is bound to be a groundbreaking initiative of our university. Our decision to invite you, the Grand Masters, is part of our quest to foster a more sustainable relationship with our alumni, a critical stakeholder group. It is not only for the sake of generating third stream income. Vic, you said Prof. Bupape is one of the greatest businessmen. Prof, we need money. But we take our alumni seriously. Granted, third stream income is vital, and alumni can play a crucial role in that regard. However, the heritage of any community thrives only when there is active participation by its alumni. Heritage, in turn, is an asset that knows no diminishing returns. A famous quote by a great African writer, Chinua Achebe, captures the significance of what we are trying to do. In what has since become an African proverb, Achebe says, until the lions learn how to ride, every story will glorify the hunter. Jonel, that should sound somehow. Jonel was an English professor too, and for his sins, very good karateka. A few who tried their luck with him didn't succeed. until we learn to tell our story the way it should, even the history of anti-apartheid struggle will write us out of the book. Our alumni can be found in every sector of our country's economy, every province, in leadership positions, in enterprise, politics, social sciences, natural sciences, law, you name it. Dr. Matsapola was just conferring with the director of the School of Law this morning. At some point, 5 out of 9 judge presidents went through the turnstiles of this university. That's what this university is capable of. The University of Limpopo is well represented. As we speak, there are 2 incumbent heads of state in South Africa and in Malawi. There are not many universities in our country, continent, or the world who can boast of such. Chakwera went through here, Ramaphosa went through this university. However, these alumni are not as outspoken about their alma mater as they should or could be. To put it differently, perhaps the University of Limpopo is not as outspoken about these alumni as it should be. It is our duty as their alma mater to tell the world about our illustrious alumni, not the other way around. We have to do it. We have to say things about them. Without a doubt, our alumni include powerful, influential, successful, and loyal individuals locally and abroad. Loyal immediately reminds me that out of his soccer team, 2 of them were running the gambling and racing boards of their provinces. Sorobi Maya was running the gambling board of Limpopo province, and Tate Matsapola was running the gambling and racing board of the Western Cape. Now, for someone to get that in the Western Cape, it should tell you something about him. And we have never seen them in papers being accused of corruption. If ever there's one industry where you can easily be corrupted because there's money, there's bribery, people want to see themselves, opening those slot machines. The other day, Sorobi was telling me that they destroyed something like 450 slot machines which were illegally placed around, and they had to go and do that. With this initiative, the Inaugural Grand Masters, we are taking the first step towards profiling and celebrating our alumni, especially for the first round, we look at the 60s and the 70s. In celebrating them, though, we hope to be able to create an institutional platform for them to contribute their extensive knowledge to the history of this institution. This platform is intended to invite alumni from the earlier days of the university to connect with the new generation. That's why I've got Poto Mamabulu and company here, the young leaders. It takes a bit of it more than singing. The chair of council, the guest of honor of today, George Mashama, Togo, Togo, how many days did they keep you there? In the cells. You know, it's difficult to get most of them because they've got, you know, unsavory memories about this place. The former chair of council, it was difficult to convince him to serve on the council, Mr. Prince Mafojane. He says the last time he was here, he left in a police van and with nothing. And he was never given an opportunity to come back to collect his belongings. We intend to invite Grand Masters in the future and on a regular basis. Today we have carefully selected our audience from the Faculty of Management and Law because of the background of Dr. Matsapola. We have invited our students and staff from the humanities, especially those in history, that maybe this should stimulate you and make you understand that the history of this university has to be somehow documented. We also have amongst us researchers who are interested in networking with the if you can do your research with the primary source, what more do you need? They say history has no blank pages. Sadly, in telling the story of the University of Limpopo, an era of black consciousness, mainly in the 70s, is normally omitted. Back to the issue, the University of Limpopo is turning 65 years old this year. Every day, we should be able to write the story of this university with our thoughts, our deeds, and our values. For the past 65 years, the university went through many changes and many phases, many epochs, some drastic and others gradual, to shape the destiny of our country. It continues to do so, but it would be a tragedy to forget where we come from. Yesterday, as we were taking a walk around the campus with Dr. Matsapola and Dr. Makuru, you know, a quick tour of the memories around campus. That stroll became a history lesson for us, a reconstruction of our shared past, a tribute to those we met along the way. And at the end of it, Dr. Matsapola said, this was so therapeutic, and indeed it was. Ladies and gentlemen, let me not take the whole day talking about it. You know, to talk about this university, especially for somebody whose sins have been for all those years. You guys left me here, and I'm still here, but I'm happy and delighted that you appreciate the state of your university. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you all.
Thank you, Prof. You know, in Sarafina, there's a character who fights with Crocodile, and he says, Crocodile, you found me here, and you will leave me here. And then he says, I'll be at this school until I'm the principal. Now I realize you actually stayed at the school until you were the principal. You know, you came in 1972, you were ringing the bell at one point, you were looking after generators at L Block, and you stayed until you were principal. Amazing, isn't it? Some left 51 years ago. Okay. Thank you, Prof. I know you. I can say I know you because you taught me zoology in 1985. So I know when you are feeling something from the heart. I can tell. A zoology professor is not an emotional person. But I know even certain things get to you. And I saw you yesterday. And when Dr. Matsapola said, I need to do this, and he went to the chair where Boshoff used to sit, and he said, Hello, Mr. Prof. Bosho. I knew this was therapy. I knew this was therapy, right? And I'm glad you're not the Vice Chancellor that anybody would want to do that to. Because this is just telling you how far and how long we have come. We are going to move to the presentation, but Prof. Mautu and Prof. Sibanda, let me thank you for helping us to structure this audience. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're trying to do is to make sure that when we have events, we have the right audience in the room. Dr. Masipa, is she here? Okay, Mr. Ngumalo, you're here, right? Okay, but the SRC is here. We wanted to make sure that when grandparents come to visit, the grandchildren must not play outside. They must be in the room and listen. Because I know sometimes you really think you are the biggest deal in town. And you are, because you are the student government. But to hear from people who were there before is very important. Because the worst you can do in trying to carve your future is to disrespect your past. And so with this Grand Master series, we are hoping that we will unearth people who made this university what it is today in very painful times, paying some of them the ultimate price. And here there are some of them happy to share the story. I also appreciate the students who come from all over the university, members of the executive management. Mr. Muloto, I know you always attend these events, and it shows why you are an HR specialist. You really understand the power of the value of human beings and the value of talent. Dr. Mwepe, I know your passion about this university and the history and the quality. I trust that you will leave this place and feel there is hope that our alumni relations will take a much more structured and strategic approach. And hopefully, in no time, we will ingratiate and ingrain into our academic project the story of this brilliant university and make sure that it is not an extramural activity. It's not an extracurricular engagement, but it's part of who we are. It's only when we do that with our own story that we will be taken seriously by others. People can never take you more seriously than you take yourself. And if you're in information studies, Homo, Prof. Bopape, your students are in media, and some of them are our student assistants. Most of the people doing this work, streaming this, including Austin there, are student assistants. They come from your school. Most of them come from the faculty, Prof. Mautu, of humanities. We are giving them a chance. We are taking a chance on them, because if we do not take a chance on the students we are training, how can we expect the economy to hire them? So we are hoping that with a little contribution we make, we have interns here from TVET colleges. The young people who are ushering you, who are holding umbrellas, are all interns. They come from a TVET college. And they are here thanks to one of our alumni, Dr. J.J. Tabane, who works in the media space, and he connected us to the MICT CETA and brought 10 young people to help us to beef up the capacity. And Dr. Makudu, I'm sure you were impressed with the quality of work that they did, because I know last week, this time, you were the most anxious person. And I watched and I said, this accountant is going to drive me nuts. But he was trying to make sure this works out, and it turns out exactly the way it should be. So it is important that when we do the work, we should take ourselves seriously enough, because when we do that, then the world will sit up and take notice. Dr. Mabila, I know you brought in the research team here. You're welcome. Advocate Rapads, I spoke to you very, very late in the day, but you managed to get the right audience here. The same with Prof. Mautu, and we appreciate your support. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move on to introducing the first Grand Master to address us. And I'm going to read his very abridged CV, because Yeah, I'm in my 50s, so somebody who left here 51 years ago even makes me dizzy. So, Dr. Maroba, aka Jimmy Matsapola, was a student at the University of Limpopo from 1971 until he was expelled in 1972, although I'm told every student got expelled in 1972. So he will tell us exactly how he did not eventually come back and graduate here. Which means this was the same year that Nkgopotse Tiro was expelled. But he came back in 1973, but subsequent to his expulsion, like most political activists of his generation, he went into exile. He obtained his BA in political science from Fisk University. Fisk is a private, historically black liberal arts college in Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States. He got that in 1982. He also studied at the University of North Dakota, or as they will say in the States, North Dakota, in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where he pursued at first an MA in public administration, but he abandoned that degree and switched to law school instead. His journey as a law student culminated in a Juris Doctor's degree from DePaul University, a private Catholic research university in Chicago, Illinois, in 1986. Dr. Matsapola's work experience in both the US and South Africa is a mix of academia, legal practice, social entrepreneurship, and public service. Among others, his firm, Matsapola and Associates, represented companies in the registration processes, mergers and acquisitions, tax compliance, as much as it rendered pro bono assistance to Africans living in the US. As adjunct professor at Loyola University School of Law in Chicago, Illinois, he lectured on several topics, including trial advocacy, how to formulate a trial strategy, effective methods of presenting evidence, and witness testimony, among others. Back in South Africa, Dr. Matsapola has been a senior legal consultant, chief operations officer in a construction company, chairman of the board of Tanaka Group, and CEO of the Western Cape Gambling Board and Racing Board, where he spent 4 years obtaining a clean audit from the Auditor General of South Africa 3 years in a row. That is 2012, 2013, and 2014. A clean audit deserves a round of applause. A clean audit 3 years in a row deserves a much, much more enthusiastic round. All right. Dr. Matsapola is an alumnus of this University of Limpopo. He's a contemporary of Nkgopotse Tiro, our current Vice Chancellor, Prof. Mahlo Mokgalong, the current Chairman of Council, Mr. Bandelani Nepolobodo, a renowned physicist and recipient of the Order of Mapunguwe, Professor Putingwepe, who I must say, managed to meet with him yesterday because as we speak, he's on his way to the United States, in California to be exact. President Cyril Ramaphosa is one of his contemporaries, Reverend Frank Chikane, Mosiwa Lekota, Terra, Matthew Posa, among many, many, many other contemporaries. He got to the university shortly after the inaugural conference of the South African Students' Organization, SASO, in July 1969, during the rise of black consciousness and the build-up towards the nationwide student uprising of June 16, 1976, the assassination of Nkgopotse Tiro on 1st February 1974, the arrest and assassination of Steve Biko on 12 September 1977. So you can imagine the political temperature in which he operated. Just imagine that. All these events were some of the few that were part of the political and social environment in which he operated. And so are the many of the alumni and the Grand Masters that are with us here today. He was therefore part of the generation that filled the leadership and activism void that had been left by the imprisonment of political leaders like Nelson Mandela and the banning of political organizations in the early to mid-1960s. His visit to the university is essential if the institution is to document and preserve its rich history. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you all to get on your feet and welcome the first Grand Master to address Dr. Maroba Jimmy Matsapola.
you are standing, can we just take a few seconds for a moment of silence for the victims of genocide in Palestine? Thank you. Let's all hope that the International Criminal Court does in fact issue the warrant of arrest for Netanyahu and his defense minister, and that indeed they become prisoners in some institution anywhere in the world. Thank you. Program Director, thank you for those generous remarks. At some point, as you were introducing me, I had forgotten some of the things that are associated with me. And I'm glad that you reminded me that. Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Mahlo Mokhalong, I know that you know I know you. You came here as a young man, and we took you under our tutelage. And I'm glad, Prof, that you didn't fight any crocodiles, and I'm glad that you stayed. Grand Masters Pandelani Nevolo-Vodwe, Chairman of the University of Council. That's how you know him. I know him as we referred to him back then. His title was General Dinef. He was my commander-in-chief when we took over the CRC through a coup that he led. Must emphasize that he led that coup. Grandmaster Dr. Arnold Msemeki, Professor Moses Bopape, let me say a few things about Professor Moses Bopape. I remembered it now. Professor Bopape was one of the people that were in this institution, and we were so enamored with their exemplary leadership. And we saw on our little hearts that one day when we get the chance, we'll emulate their exemplary personalities. Professor Nkondo, Mushe Nkondo, our esteemed members of faculty, members of the SRC, comrades and friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've observed all protocol. Program Director, allow me to express my deepest gratitude for the high honor and privilege to address you on this historic occasion that will henceforth be known throughout history as the Grand Masters series. I am also indebted to my wife, who permitted me, underline that, permitted me to join you and be part of this auspicious journey into the annals of history. Yes, I was never in the papers for corruption, and yes, I was never corrupted. It wasn't because I was not tempted. It was because of the regime in my house. My wife was the executive manager who was responsible for programs that had to do with responsible gambling. And she would be at loggerheads with license operators, and therefore I couldn't take the money from the license operators, and she would come up with a stick and hit them. So I had to just say no. I'm also elated because the remarks I am about to make and deliver on the eve of one of the most critical elections since the dawn of our budding democracy. These elections may indeed determine the fate of our democracy and the path we firmly must take as a people. I have also taken the liberty of dividing my remarks into three key areas. I will begin firstly by outlining what my generation's mission was, and thereafter answer whether we accomplished that mission. I will then present an account of what happened after 1994, and I will then address the challenges that our teething democracy faces and may continue to face if the progressive youth do not intervene. Hopefully, this audience, particularly the progressive youth in this audience, will find my remarks sufficiently valuable to assist them to understand what their role must be as natural agents of political, social, economic, and change and transformation. There is a profoundly moving phrase that is attributable to Frantz Fanon, and it says, and I quote, "Each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it." Malcolm X, on the other hand, a very inspirational civil rights leader of his time, once said, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." Simply put, without exception, history chooses a mission for each generation. It is up to that generation to discover the mission and to either take it up or fold their arms and watch other people squander their future. Undertaking to fulfill the mission is preparing for the future today. With my remarks today, I hope to assist you in discovering the mission history has chosen for you and the progressive youth of today. My generation, loosely dubbed the baby boomer generation, out of relative obscurity, we discovered our historic mission and we accepted it, and accepted it as a national duty and responsibility. We did not betray it. We shouldered it defiantly against daunting odds. We were born under a political order that forced black people to endure the cruelest existence that the United Nations later declared to be a crime against humanity. Our mission, therefore, was crystal clear. History commissioned us to do three things. One, overthrow the world's most inhumane and racist regime. Overthrow it. Two, end apartheid and settler colonialism and replace it with democracy. Three, dismantle apartheid and its abhorrent legacy. That was our mission. The mission was clearly the most perilous, protracted, and difficult in the extreme. We were called upon to face the most formidable power in all of Africa, at least at the time. A regime that was not only armed with nuclear weapons, but was actively supported by Israel and the most powerful Western governments. But when the horn of liberation was blown, we did not hesitate to answer our duty call. We did not know how we were going to face such a daunting enemy. Didn't have weapons, didn't have nuclear weapons, didn't have an army. But we had an abiding faith that history was on our side, and that both our devotion to national duty and the spirit of our ancestors who gallantly battled colonialists will guide us through. That's all that we had. Abiding faith. Countless of our compatriots lost their precious lives along the treacherous road to freedom. Thousands more, like your chairman of the council, Mr. Navolov, General Dinev, they languished in barbaric prisons that were colossally designed to break the toughest human spirit. Thousands of others, like yours truly, were forced into exile and swelled the guerrilla military training camps where we learned the art of war. In the end, we triumphantly overthrew the apartheid rule and thereby accomplished the first task of our mission, and that was in 1994. We thereafter, and in accordance with the mission's mandate, immediately embarked upon a journey to establish a democracy and to dismantle apartheid and its ugly legacy. You may ask, what were the steps that we resolutely took to accomplish our mission after the overthrow of apartheid? Very genuine question. Despite fierce opposition and the menacing threat of civil war, we adopted a national constitution that provided for a democratic dispensation, and we enthusiastically embraced the dawn of the rule of law and the infinite possibilities that equality and justice will usher to the previously oppressed. We resolutely endeavored to establish a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We were inspired by, among other African heroes, Amilcar Cabral, who once cautioned his comrades during their fierce struggle for independence in Guinea-Bissau, and I quote, "Tell no lies, claim no easy victories," unquote. We then masterfully established the essential institutions that are necessary to serve as stubborn pillars to fortify democracy. For example, we started with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We professionalized the armed forces. We empaneled an independent judiciary. We created Chapter 9 institutions, formed state-owned entities, and we constitutionally guaranteed the freedom of the press. Most importantly, from a pool of available experts, and this is crucial, I want you to listen to me carefully. Most importantly, from a pool of available experts, professionals and accomplished managers, we deployed the most competent individuals to man these institutions. Once these institutions were in place, real and tangible transformation became evident. If you look at the period between 1994 and 2007, you will find that evidence. All developmental indicators revealed considerable progress. In the main, the standard of living rose, and the per capita GDP climbed high and reached 3.6%, and unemployment and poverty were reduced. Over 1 million permanent jobs were created in that period. Now, regardless of the mounting and sometimes discouraging challenges that look insurmountable, and regardless of what your political affiliations may be, we all must agree that the establishment of our constitutional democracy initially introduced the tangible economic, social, and political gains, and that such valuable gains are worthy defending. Whether we may disagree vehemently about certain provisions of our national constitution, the principle of a constitutional democracy and the rule of law that flows naturally therefrom must be held as paramount as possible. And if need be, such must be defended, like Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. It is the only way we can ensure that we build a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. However, let me hasten to concede that even as relevant programs were being devised and planned to include the marginalized, inequality and other social ills persisted unabated. the process of fully dismantling or restoring the trashed dignity of black people 30 years into democracy is still underway. And at times, it seems very elusive. The millions of blank eyes, young and old, that one finds in disgusting squalor, gazing at the evaporating hope in the streets of our ravaged communities, it is a haunting reminder and testimony that the dismantling project is far from being achieved. This truth is more dramatic if you turn your head from the squalor and see obscene opulence in the ritzy and swanky gate communities, just a stone throw away. The levels of inequality in our beloved country is a shameful indictment of the promises democracy ought to fulfill. Bear in mind that my task this morning is to draw you out as the youth, to think and to find your own mission, given the context of South Africa. What is it that you as the youth, what is it that history is calling you as the youth to come and do? This is what I'm talking about here. This is what I'm trying to do here. Let us look at what were or what continue to be the cause of the challenges that we face as a nation and ask a pivotal question. Maroba, you are talking about institutions, poverty was reduced, and now we're stuck with the stark reality of mentally debilitating inequalities. What happened? What happened? You said you had experts, managers, we deployed them to these institutions, and you say because we did that, something happened and there was progress. What happened? A legitimate question. Our victory against apartheid did not please everyone. In fact, our triumph continues to attract ferocious opposition. Foreign and domestic enemies of our revolution spend sleepless nights plotting to reverse or derail our just revolution. They spare no effort to disrupt or to throttle our young budding democracy. These assertions are not empty conspiracy theories. These are real. The enemies of our democracy are real. In this most recent speech, and I hope you find it and read it, President Thabo Mbeki reflected on the 30 years of our democracy. He concisely describes the methods counter-revolutionaries used and may continue to use to destroy what has now become our way of life, unless you, the youth, intervene. And they are working hard to eradicate poverty and to restore dignity of our people through the principles of equality before the law, to protect the fundamental rights of all citizens and residents of our great country, and to ensure once and for all that our democracy is a place where the law is respected. is the only constitution in the whole wide world. Right to social assistance, the right to access information, and the right to be housed. These are the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. The celebrated National Health Insurance, which the President signed into law on the 16th of May, or I think it was on the 20th of May, marking the beginning of a universal health care, epitomizes the commitment to the delivery of promised rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. If you are sick and you need medical care, if you do not get medical care, someone is responsible for having violated your fundamental constitutional rights. This is the Constitution that we have. Anyone who denies these social economic rights may confidently approach the competent courts and seek redress. We had or have economic policies such as RDP, GIE as Giza, that gave us fundamental changes in the circumstances of ordinary people. And the bright path towards prosperity was much clearer when these policies were introduced. Allow me to use a popular cliche. When these policies were introduced, we could have said we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Somebody might suggest that, Maroba, yes, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, but no one told us it was a train. What happened? Clearly things began to conspicuously tank starting 2007. President Mbeki, when asked this question, was very blunt. He said it was the work of counter-revolutionaries. And he encouraged us to investigate the impact of the world economic meltdown of 2009 and the world's COVID-19 lockdowns, and see whether or not we cannot find solace. We cannot find reason why we are in this mess that we're in today. But I respect President Mbeki, but I have my own views. And my views are based on principles that I believe and hold dear. I think we're in this mess because there was gross mismanagement of government resources. I think we're in this mess because there's greed. I think we're in this mess because international forces that are bent to destroy our economy and our democracy. I'll get into that. We shifted from deploying professionals, experts, and accomplished managers to critical service delivery portfolios. We married patronage and cronyism. One cannot overemphasize the developmental impact that the shameful tendency of deploying grossly unqualified and or incompetent individuals to manage strategic services delivery in government positions. I cannot overemphasize that. Powerful leaders employ patronage to cling to power. I'm hoping the students in the SRC are listening. So you do not become a participant or a willing and an unwilling participant in this process of patronage and cronyism. At some point, you must put your foot down and say, I'm not for sale. When it comes to my people, their future and the future of my grandchildren, I am not for sale. Stand for the truth. Absorb the consequences. Be poor if you would, but stand firm, because our nation needs you. We are at a critical area of development, and we need you to stand up and be counted. Don't give in to Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. Say no. Say no. If my next door neighbor has no bread or cannot have good health because there's garbage that was not collected by a comrade whose trucks are forever stuck somewhere, and they come to you, you must say no. Fix my neighbor's problems first before you talk to me. The agenda of both the most powerful crooks and greedy former liberation activists was revealed spectacularly to us in both the Nugent Commission and the Zondo Commission on state capture. There we learned with horror how individuals fueled by greed agreed to occupy key positions in the executive branch of government and conspired to loot the SOEs and bring them to their knees, and how they attempted to dismantle SARS. These greedy counter-revolutionaries had few successes. The SOEs are today almost bankrupt. Having failed to derail our democracy, they have now enlisted unsuspecting intellectuals to do their bidding. Today, there are high-profile intellectuals within our country who openly and notoriously advocate for the scrapping of our Constitution. They claim without any persuasive proof, that the Constitution exclusively benefits the elite. They claim, and included also in the heap of their disparaging complaints against the Constitution, is a claim that our Constitution perpetuates poverty, inequality, landlessness, and unemployment. The charge that is made by these celebrities are gaining traction in some of the social sectors, particularly among the poorest of the poor, who are generally less educated and desperate. They are also getting traction, surprisingly, among the youth. And this is the youth that is lazy to analyze the diabolical propositions people who listen to someone, demagogue, scrap the Constitution. Yes, scrap the Constitution. What are you saying, comrade? Scrap what Constitution? What grounds do we have to scrap this Constitution? However, when one, and some political parties, one mention names, some political parties have now made these false charges the focus of their manifestos and stoke voters to accept the preposterous claim as valid that every ill that you experience in South Africa, it is based on that constitution. That is false. And I'll die saying it is false, because it is false. You don't have to listen to me. You have to make your own determination, analyze these propositions. However, when one examines the fluid anti-constitution rhetoric, when you analyze it, it becomes immediately and abundantly clear that there is no substance in such a charge. None of these distinguished leaders and professionals point to any specific provision in the Constitution that substantiate that claim. If you say the Constitution causes poverty, point us to a provision in the Constitution that makes poverty possible. If you can't, you shouldn't accept that proposition. If there is anyone who says the Constitution promotes inequality, please ask them to give you a provision in the Constitution. Our Constitution is a public document. Let them go there and say, see here, comrade, the Constitution says there must be poverty. And anyone who comes with programs that alleviate poverty must be hung or must be imprisoned. Then you will say, yes, this Constitution promotes poverty. But unless they show you that, take it with a grain of salt at the minimum. My suspicion is predicated on the fact that, but by considering their stance, it will not be unsound to suspect that theirs is a diabolical endgame or scheme that includes seeing the unceremonious return of the rule by kings that will be supported by a tribalized intelligentsia. That is where we are going. Our fragile and budding democracy is under attack. There's no question about that. Our revolution faces serious difficulties. There's no question about that. And the urgent management of these challenges becomes critical. Unlike the new enemies of our revolution, the political, economic, and social exigencies are clear and identifiable. Everywhere, the cautionary bells are ringing. They are ringing for the true youthful patriots and ordinary men of conscience to rise and defend the motherland. Fortunately, there is a determined president whose aim is unambiguous. He wields a big sledgehammer And he has already used this sledgehammer several times to squash the counter-revolutionaries. You also have a group of people who are determined. Let me say this. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I'm challenging you to take off your political affiliation garb and put it aside and look at the challenges as they are. One thing that made the Black consciousness movement to be so successful that you as the youth now, you still talk about Black consciousness, even if you were not born at the time the Black consciousness movement was. The reason the Black consciousness movement was successful, it was because we all agreed and we were all in sync, singing from the same hymn book about who the enemy was. It didn't matter whether you came from an influence that is salted with communism or nationalism, or you were from the church, or you were a Sangom. It did not matter, because all of us embraced the task at hand. We all embraced it. Maybe, and I'm just throwing it out there, maybe if we can just say, stop, we might be drunk by the democracy whiskey. And we think that democracy means that anyone can just up and open a political party. How many political parties do we really need? What is it that we are so different politically? How are we so different politically that we need, how many political parties are there? I don't know, 20, whatever. Huh? 52. What is it that we need 52 political parties for? We have one enemy and one enemy alone, and the enemy is anyone and everybody that is against progress. If we define progress and we define our task, you will find yourself out of that skipper, whatever it is. And you will find yourself not following an individual, but following a set of principles that is going to engineer change. If you find it in African National Congress like I do, so be it. If you find it in the Pan-Africanist Congress, so be it. But 5 political parties, I think, should be the max. Should be the max. When we started with the national government, government of national unity, people from different walks of life were able to be deployed on the basis of their expertise, on the basis of their qualifications, on the basis of their competence. So if we change that, then it is your duty to come up and say, why are you changing this? This thing was working. Why are you changing it? Why is a woman who only claim to fame was burning impepo outside the courtroom, qualifies to be an MP. You have to ask that. If you find a mayor whom you know has absolutely no clue about governance, why are you quiet? Why do you have to wear a red jersey or something else instead of standing up and organizing those who think like you to oppose that? Dr. Motlana said, and I'm about to conclude, Dr. Motlana said, and your chairman of council will tell you, Motlana said, there is nothing that can stop an idea whose time has come. Right now, we are in poverty. There are squalors. People are disgustingly forced to live under abhorring conditions. Do you need to be an EFF member to know that? Do you need to be a Zuma party to know that? You don't. Because the truth is facing you right here in your face. And in anybody that recruits you to join any political party, ask them about these realities. And if they don't make sense, and the only sense that they make to you is that you should have party regalia, then we are in trouble as a nation. We are in trouble as a nation. Let me conclude. In considering what your generation's mission is, it is my hope that you discover how critically important our Constitution is, and that it deserves to be defended against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. We are at the critical point in our history where political affiliation should take the back banner. And the national agenda must take precedence over petty political differences that divide us. Comrade Program Director, with those few words, I hope I have inspired discussions at the minimum among the youth. Thank you.
All right. Let's give a formal round of applause. If you are not rattled, you have missed the point. Okay. I told you we're the Grand Masters, right? Therefore, everything must be calibrated, including time. If you have visited your grandparent, if you don't visit your grandparents, that's the problem. But if you visited them, you know you can't be saying to them, no, and here's the scary thing about grandparents, is you will do this to them, and they will stop, and that will be the last time you talk to them. Then you'll kick yourself for the rest of your life for not having given them the time. So we are going to give the Grandmasters their time today. All right? Africa is losing its culture because children don't listen to their grandparents. They don't visit them. They don't know them. We are learning to throw them into old age homes. That's fine, but visit them in the old age homes then. Sit on their lap and let them instill in you the wisdom. So, Dr. Matsapola, thank you very much. I have so many questions for you, but I will not monopolize because we have other grandmasters here that I want to give the benefit of asking the questions to. And grandmasters, and by grandmasters I mean the following people: Dr. Matsapola, Comrade George Mashamba, Metowozile Faith Tlatswayo, Prof. Moss Bramos, we called him Bramos, Wopape. And now I know you're a commander, but you are a commander anyway as chairman of our council. The chairman of our council, Dr. Arnold Msimeki. I might extend a special privilege to another grandmaster, Professor Joe Nell, but he wasn't here then, but he's a grandmaster, he qualifies. Just like Prof. Mokhalong was here, he qualifies on other grounds. See, if your ID doesn't start with a 5, don't say anything about time today. Okay. Who is first? I'm going to ask for the microphones, and I'm going to ask that Dr. Msimeki gets the lapel mic, and Bra George gets the lapel mic. You don't have a question? Is it possible even? Okay, we'll get back to you for your remarks. So when I say questions, I mean you may have listened to his address and you feel, let's go to him at his time. Okay, start with Bra Arnold. I'm sure you will have a question in one of the many languages you speak. And Dade Nef, I would also like to give you the benefit. So we have a certain amount of time allocated to the fellow grandmasters that are here, that we are going to allow them to talk openly. And feel free, by the way, to make your remarks from the podium as well. Chairperson, would you like to start? You can come here. I suspect it. Stage the coup now. 52 years later.
Jimmy is now old. We can no longer be able to stage the coup. Yeah, thank you, Master of Ceremony. And greetings to everybody. Mine is a comment. And mine is based on my own framework. So as you grow, right, you develop certain sets of framework when you are confronted with reality. So my concept of framework and reality is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to go into what my colleague has presented. But I've just been made aware by Comrade Mashamba. He sent me a note just now that the number that I gave you about political party is very far from the truth. Now, the number that Comrade Mashamba has just given me is 260. You can conceptualize what Dr. Matsapola was saying, whether indeed we need in a country like ours those 260, and what is it that they are supposed to do. Here's my framework. I have come to believe, and also very concretely, that society as it's called. It's not static. I think other people have come to that realization in the past, but I've accepted that way of reasoning. That society develops and it continues to develop and it continues to bring new relationships, if I were to be understood. It continues to develop, it continues to change, and it continues to bring about new relationships. Therefore, when you deal with societal change, don't stick to what you know today. There might be other things that you may be forced to know tomorrow, because society does that for you. Now I'm coming to what I'm going to emphasize. So when society does that, it says to me and Comrade Mashamba and Matsapola that we lived our time. It says so. There is a time to be lived now. We brought in what we thought was right and put into effect, including the Constitution, by the way. Right? We, the older generation, we did that. But let's be very careful. This constituency must not be static. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble. We are going to fight with the younger generation when they say to us, the constitutional dispensation you have put onto us, it's not answering to our problem. Then we will be static and say, no, don't change it. Don't change it. So my framework says, let's not resist that and get into the question of defending whatever we have done. It can be good, but there might be other circumstances today as I'm standing here, which we must listen to. That's a framework which I want to bring even into the discussions, right? A framework. And let me put it very substantially. When the youth of our time tells us that, you were on Robben Island when we know that, right? And we respect the fact that you fought apartheid, you defeated it. But after defeating it, we live under inequality. Right? We live under circumstances that we will have to battle with. And that's where I agree with the statement made by Ahmed Cabral, that every generation must be left to stand up for its generation. Right? And the generation means the youth. And I'm checking this side here. It means the youth. If they don't stand up, we stood up. We stood up. That's why you hear this nice history about that we were here, we fought. We stood up, but we were acting under our own material circumstances. One fellow I read once, I don't know whether Rudyard Kipling or what, one of these poem fellows, he once said, the old order changes, yielding places to new. Just listen to that sentence. It's an English sentence, and even the English, it appears to be the old English. The old order changes. Right? Old orders change every time. Even this old order of 1994 must change. That's my framework. Because if it doesn't change, the quality of life, let me also come. If it doesn't change, the quality of life, when you have got a constitutional dispensation to my framework, that it must be every two, as it changes, bring about qualitative life. It mustn't just be an old order which has been put there, and then it doesn't continue to master. Right? To mean that there must be qualitative life. As I'm standing here, now I'm very easy. There's no quality of life for black people. I'm not asking for opinion. Seriously, I'm not asking for opinion. It's what I observe. It's reality. You see, there's some concept called reality. It's reality. It's what it is there. Someone must stand up and change it. Even if I'm president of the country, you must stand up and change it. Because when I'm president of a country, what I normally do, I must defend this dispensation that made me president of the country. There's no way I can do it, because when I accepted office, I accepted on the condition that I will defend, right? So don't come to me when I'm a president of a country and say, let's change this together. It can't happen. It can't happen. So it's not something you must feel unhappy with when you oppose those that are in power. It's not something you must feel ashamed. It is because this thing I'm talking about, framework, or happens that way. It's that it makes me the incumbent. It makes me the incumbent to defend my turf. Let me now go and sit where I tell you something.
All right.
I want to conclude to say to you that, you see, when you have become what they call an elder, I'm actually surprised that my old brother is still called Bra. In the township, it doesn't work that way. You start as a Bra. And then as you move, you become a timer. And as you move, or you become a Grootman. But Bra is a very agile, and I'm very happy that all right. In conclusion, I wanted just to make that remark to say, please, old orders changes, and the quality of life has got to be made to occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear the coup in the message there? That's how he staged the coup. He doesn't like things staying the same at all. By the way, Chairperson, I looked up the words. The old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. Comfort thyself. What comfort is in me? I have lived my life, and that which I have done may he within himself make pure. But thou, if thou should never see my face again, pray for my soul. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. That was Alfred Lord Tennyson, the guy that wrote The Charge of the Light Brigade. Okay. So I'm hearing already, I'm liking this, and I'm sure you are up for the challenge. I mean, you're the only ones who are saying we are going all the way to Gaza if need be, judging by your outfit, right? So you'll take this all the way. They say, let me ask Bra Arnold. Okay. Yeah, I think you want to come here. I know you have leave the mic. Maybe use this one for now. Okay. Dr. Arnold Msimeki, let me tell you, he was a psychologist. Oh, no, leave the for now. Yes, just take the mic. I'll tell you. He was the director of the Student Council and Bureau when we got here. But I only knew very late that, you know, the hall we call Onkgopotse Tiro was named after Onkgopotse Tiro, who was a student here, SRC, got expelled in 1972, assassinated in 1974. This man taught Onkgopotse Tiro here at the university. Go figure. So it doesn't matter what he wants to say, we listen to him, right?
Thank you for that.
Ronald.
I can say anything that comes to my mind. Yeah, as I was listening to our erstwhile student, I realized he was saying that when you have a problem or set of problems or a situation to deal with, look at all the possibilities that you can get to deal with it, provided you retain your honesty, your integrity, and you don't, and your dignity. You don't trample over people. You don't filch or steal from the people. You look at them and do your best to help. Now that's what we have been about at the university. I want to give you, waste your time, to give you a short history.
No, go ahead.
What the students have been doing up to now. I came here in 1964. I'm sure most of the students here were not born yet. And
I was not born, Dr. Msimeke.
Now, what I'm going to say, looking back, I want to divide the epochs of student activism and the students' work at the university into 3 epochs, which you know very well. The first epoch is what we call the classical epoch. When the university was established here, the aim of our tutors, who were Afrikaners from Stellenbosch, from Poch, from Pretoria University, etc., they wanted to come and produce ladies and gentlemen from these little Bantu people. We had to follow precisely the order of things at the university. Of course, you wouldn't bring liquor into the university in a bottle. You might bring a bit of my from Mamtintan in your stomach, but liquor was taboo. We had to behave. When we went to class, we had to put on our ties and jacket. When we went to the dining room, even on a Saturday, we'll go and play at the sports ground and run back to put our jackets and ties before we went to the dining room. You wouldn't go to class without a jacket and a tie. Never, ever. That was the classical period at TEFWOP. And the aim of the students themselves was to turn TEFWOP into a liberal institution, a la Wits, Cape Town, Natal, etc. We wanted to be a liberal institution. And everything that we did, we were looking up to Wits, looking up to Cape Town, etc. There were intensive interactions between our SRC and the SRCs in those universities. People like Jonty Driver at Wits was a very prominent student leader who came here a number of times to come and influence us. And that went on for the entire period of the 60s. We wanted to be English-speaking students, having a jacket and a tie. even Bramos, who didn't believe in it, he had to put on a jacket and a tie. All of us. That was the classical period at the university. It went on, and towards the end of the decade, these things come in decades. Towards the end of the decade, towards the end of the 60s, the black consciousness movement, the wind of black consciousness, blew over the country, particularly led by Comrade Steve Biko and others. And we started to wake up to the fact that we are not English, young English ladies and gentlemen. We are black people. And the slogan was, black men, you are on your own. So, in 1969, the SASO conference was held at Tefruop. Many prominent student leaders came to attend. And the admin was very keen to have this conference on, because now here are the Bantu students on their own. They will not be influenced by the English students. The SRC didn't have much money. They said, no, stage the conference, we'll recoup the fees, the funds from the student fees. So we ran a successful conference, the SASO conference. From that time on, the black consciousness movement took root in all black institutions until the 16th of July, when we had the Soweto student uprising. That was under black consciousness. And we went on under black consciousness, and we felt we're doing very well. But as things went on, towards the turn of the 70s, the 60s was the classical period, then the 70s, the era of black consciousness, the whole of the entire decade of the 70s was black consciousness. And towards the end of the 70s, then the national democratic revolution wind started blowing. It was strengthened here, particularly in the middle of the black consciousness era. People were arrested at the university. Some of them are here, like Comrade George, Comrade Toko, and others. They went to Swaziland on a trip. Now, we were student leaders. We didn't know about that. They were arrested in Swaziland, and they came back, and they faced the music. That was the encroachment of the National Democratic Revolution. And the students were in the forefront all the time. They met students throughout the country and formed the South African Student Congress, as opposed to South African Student Organization, SASO. So the Congress movement, the Congress spirit pervaded the institutions. And we were no longer students. We graduated into young staff members, and we took the revolutionary spirit into the staff members. And we formed already towards the end of the 70s, we formed the Black Academic Staff Association, BASA. That association turned the university around. And our goal was to Africanize the university. We wanted to Africanize the governance of the university, the management of the university, and the curricular offerings at the university. We did very, very well with the first two, the governance of the university and the management of the university. Some of the people that are leading you now, and that have been leading for a number of years, came into existence because of this Africanization effort by the Black Academic Staff Association. The chairman of that association is Professor Moshe Nkondo, who couldn't make it, I don't know why. but I was his secretary. I was secretary of the SRC, secretary of the Black Academic Staff Association, and secretary of so many psychological associations in the country. I'm in the university, psychology of the English, of the Literary Society. I was secretary, a bond secretary. I kept, and I could keep the records. I remembered all the things that had to be remembered, and we Africanized the university. Up to now, that has been done. But even BASA had to succumb to the National Democratic Revolution. We changed BASA as an association here, and all the other associations in the country, for white universities, black universities, we met to form a new association at near Bergwanath, and we formed the UDUSA, the Union of Democratic University Staff Associations. It was felt later on that the name UDUSA left out those tertiary institutions that were not universities. Then we came with a new name, which sounds like a swear word, Ntesu. National Tertiary Education Staff Union. It was for all, lecturers, the professors at all universities. And the academic ban that was imposed on the white universities like that was lifted by overseas universities. What I'm saying is, particularly to the students here, look around when there's a problem or you have a program, look around and adopt all those strategies that will give you success. That's what we did, starting in the classical way, the black consciousness way, and the National Democratic Revolution way.
All right, hey. I have no idea if you, are you aware of how much treasure this is? So we let him wrap up, right?
And all of us have been made by this university. This university has done a lot of good for all of us because they gave us an enriched curriculum. I measured in English and psychology. I studied German to the third year level. I studied French to the third year level. I could have greeted you bonjour, comment allez-vous, or guten Morgen or guten Tag, wie geht es mit Ihnen? This is the University of Limpopo. It has made us be open-minded. There are this million political parties that are there. But like our guest speaker said, don't be deceived. Don't sell your soul. Maintain your attitude to the solution of the problems of our country. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. Just watch this thing. Okay, you see, when he starts speaking in French, he used to tell us, we used to have a culture of learning, and you guys came in and wrecked everything. So I knew he was going to go there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you are, Prof. Mukhalong, I'm sure you realize now what you have done. I don't even think you had an idea of what you were starting. But you are a zoology professor, you know evolution can't be dictated. All right, so we start with one form of life, we end up with another. He confirmed it, your chairman of council, that nothing stays. What I found intriguing is, are you telling me that a white vice chancellor in 1969 mistakenly hosted the formation of South African Students' Organization thinking that he was helping apartheid?
Yeah. Yes.
What happened? What happened to that poor professor? Because I don't know if you understand. He even financed it.
No, he didn't finance, but he was hoping that we were people of separate development.
Right.
Divide and rule, that if the Bantus can have their own things, like SASO.
Give me the mic because we need to record this. No, give me the mic. There's a roving mic. I think it's important that we understand our history and we get it right. That even when mistakes happened, leadership allowed. Okay, please proceed. So the ethos of the day was separate development. Yep. Everybody in their corner according to race and ethnic group.
Is it on?
It is on. Give him voice.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
on. Now, here is the trick. Even in history, if the student, you could Google, you will find that written by the apartheid establishment. Apartheid establishment wanted the Bantus meaning the black people, right, to be separate from them. So what they did, they build up institutions of separateness. Huh? They build Ongoye for the Zulus, as they understood them. They build
Durban Westville.
Westville for the Indirs, as they for Indians, and they build Western Cape institution for what they believe to be colored. And then they went on that way, but here they then built an institution which they felt must cater for the Mavendas, the Shangans, the Sutus. Ne? That is why it's called Sovenga. You must Google and find out why Sovenga was the name. It was to bring about that. Little did they knew that there will be, this place will be a pot of danger.
Right.
But when it was announced that the black students are pulling out of NUSAS, you must remember, many I think they did belong to NUSAS or Mashamba. There was only one student organization called NUSAS, which was led by English-speaking.
Yeah, this John T. Driver who died last. Yeah.
So that news has included the Bantus also, or Herin and Wekulu and others, or Steve Biko, or Bani Pijana, they belong to that. But at one stage, because of what I was trying to say, the material conditions determines your consciousness.
So in one line, what made, sorry, I'm trying to just manage the time. In one line, how do you explain the breakaway of black students from the National Union of South African Students?
It was sparked up by a material condition they wanted to tell you. There was some conference which was held with both black and white students. And it so happened that when it came to time for going to sleep, apartheid would not allow Bomsimeki to be sleeping in the same place with what I think they were thinking the girls of white people will be in trouble of
So the progressive, I need to help, I need to subtext this and footnote it for the younger ones.
Yeah.
So the National Union of South African Students, at its own conference, was practicing apartheid when it came to accommodation.
Yebo. And so when that happened, guys like Erin Negwekulu, Steve Biko, so in every organization you do have some of the very up and sharp, like but Dr. Matsapola was saying, even here I can tell you those that were in the core of rabble rousing. So Steve Biko, Bani Pichana, Erin Negwekulu, and the ones that were very active at the top, they decided to, let's call a black caucus and talk about this thing that occurs every time when we are with white students, every time it occurs. This thing is not on. So they call a black caucus, and in that black caucus, the black caucus decided that we are forming our own. They can have their own.
Gotcha.
So when it was then inaugurated here by Bomsimeki and Company, right? It was then seen by the establishment as a correct policy by the Bantus, right? To look after their own issues, right? At that stage. And therefore there was nothing wrong, in fact, in housing the Bantus that want to be subservient and have their own organization. Little did they know.
Little did they know. All right. Thank you very much. Mohau, you are an historian, right? Yeah, no, I will. No, I'm inviting him next. I'm inviting him. You set him up very. Mohau, you and all the historians in here, please. I mean, 1969 was a very pivotal year in the history of the anti-apartheid struggle, especially the student activism. And the inaugural conference that triggered it all was held here. Take a moment and ponder that. A watershed conference in July 1969, which changed the course of the anti-apartheid struggle, especially the student activism, because students were a very powerful motive force in the revolution. That conference was held here. Now, I don't know where the drama students are, Prof. Mautu, but I would like a parody of this Professor Boshoff, who thought he was advancing apartheid and separate development, and hosted black students, founding this South African students organization, thinking they are advancing the policy of separate development. That's the parody of our time. That's the paradox of an institution like this one, which has always been looked at as a Bush college, and yet it was never a Bush college in that sense of the word. But let me tell you something. We always think we know the history of this institution until there's a man here that, when I was here, was the social work professor. But he was also a farmer. And it turns out, when the university started in, 1959, but the first class was 1960, he was the 19th student to be admitted. So when I said my student number is 8503699, I was showing just how deep in the mess I am already. But somebody was student number 19 to be admitted to this university. Hang on a second. At a 65-year-old university, I think we need to know who that man is. And he's Professor Moses Bupat. We called him Bramos. Bramos, no, he needs to be here. He needs to be here. He studied social work, and social work is one of the most underestimated social sciences. Highly underestimated. It has law enforcement in it, it has economics in it, it has psychology in it, it's got family in it, it's got just about everything you need. Bramos, please, take your time. If you're student number 19, you have so many people behind you, they can wait.
In the first place, I want to thank you, and thank you especially Professor Matom Hogo Mkhalo, sorry.
Oh, what a Freudian slip.
So now, as you are aging now, I'm 86 now. As you are aging now, you mix up issues. Now, I want to thank you and congratulate you for having decided to call a meeting of this nature. And also to thank Dr. Matsapola for his presentation. Also thank Mr. Dr. Msimeki. I think he has indicated where we come from. I don't need to go to that extent to thank Mr. Mashamba. His office was next to mine. Togo, Nofolofolo. Always when I see you, I think of Nyongokulu. I don't know why I mix you up with him. Yes, we were the first students to come here to register at the University of the North. We were 1887, if I'm not mistaken. 3 girls. 3 ladies. They were ladies. I still remember their names. So I don't want to go into the era of Basa, black consciousness, etc., but I want to start much earlier. That when we were students here in 1960, it was that year when there was the Sharpeville killings. And one of our colleagues, his father was involved there. So we were living in a period of tense. We were tense, and we didn't trust anybody. It was an era of sellouts. Even the lecturers, we didn't trust them. Because most of the white lecturers who were here could speak an African language. They would speak either Tsonga, Venda, or Tswana, but they wouldn't say so. So that they can eavesdrop it. And as students, we were also coming from various backgrounds. We were from high schools. There was a group of students from Normal College. They came from Vlakfontein and they were shifted to this area. As students, we wanted to organize, we wanted an SRC. And the rector asked us, what do you know about an SRC? We said, well, we know it's a movement of students at the university. And Potgieter, who was our first rector, resisted that request. And there was the first strike. The first strike that took place here was that we wanted an SRC. What happened is that in the evening, students got paint. This place was under construction. They wrote everywhere else, SRC or no school. All over here was SRC or no schools. But even among ourselves, we were divided. There was ASUSA, which was a branch of students under ANC, and there was under PAC, and there was ASA. ASA was under ANC. So we were divided amongst ourselves, and these political parties were banned. We couldn't speak about it. We didn't trust anybody. Eventually, after that strike, the rector gave in. He called us during tea time, 10 o'clock tea time. He called us and said, now, why do you do this? Why don't you come to me and ask for an SRC properly? You've got your SRC. So we had to organize a committee to organize a constitution. The first chairman of that committee was Edward Makhene. He used to share a room with me. So that was the beginning of life here, SRC-wise or student-wise. We were brought together. From there, there was an era of, during the formation of SRC, we relied heavily on NUSAS. NUSAS was to guide us how to put up together our constitution. And remember, Leftwich used to come here. Students from West used to come here. NUSAS was a group of, was a national association of white students, English speaking, and there was RSB, which African Student Bond, which was for African speaking. And the complaint was that, why can't you study your own, man? You can't go to UNISAS, neither can you go to Afrikaners. Why don't you study your own? Hence, the studying of our own SASO, etc., etc. I'm speaking about the era of students. In 1964, February, I was appointed as a technical assistant in the Department of Sociology and Social Work. That's where I met people like Lokota was in my class, Terra Lokota, and he dropped out of that first year class. There are many others. There are many others who were in my class. Others are now ambassadors, others ended up in parliament, etc., etc. But it was an era of trial and error. But this is information that I would prefer to discuss with those who are training social workers, because we had a lot of problems. We had to work among blacks, do practical work among blacks, but the lecturers were all white except Mr. Mabuda Fasi and myself. And Mabuda Fasi was a sociologist, but he died very early in a car accident. That's the little I can share with you. There are many others we can do. There was no entertainment here. We used to go around to go and look for liquor, but you can't bring it here, you must bring it in your stomach. As far as women are concerned, there was nothing here. We used to go in there. Absolutely nothing. So most of us did not marry fellow students. We married elsewhere. So that's the little we can do. We can sit here and talk about politics, but generally speaking, for to talk of cultural lag in sociology, we talk of cultural lag, that our times have changed. You cannot use the models of 1990 to sort out the contemporary issues. We call on you as young students to look at what could be done now, what needs to be done right now. You must address yourself regarding the here and now. Our country is going down the drain. Yes, we had, as Dr. Matsapola indicated, we had exiles, we had people who were arrested, we had people who were privileged to be arrested, some were not arrested, some trained overseas. Yes, during that time it was necessary. They came back home, they did what they did. But now we must address ourselves about what is happening right now. Our country needs people who are pragmatic. This university has developed so fast and so wide. You have enough manpower. Under the leadership of Mhalong, I think you were the longest staying rector here. I worked under Potgieter, under Poshov, under Kware, under Mhalong. And I can tell you a lot of politics about this place. I know a lot. I know a lot for the simple reason that, unlike other people, I was born, bred, and buttered here. I never drove to, I walked to this university. I grew up here. My alma mater is the school down here, Mutolo School. I come from nobody. That's where I was born and bred and buttered. Otherwise, I spent the whole of my life here, from 1938 till today. So I know a lot of things. And I want to thank you for that.
Ramos, did you say you were 37 students? 87. And you were divided. That's some scary stuff. You want one thing, but you're divided and you're only 87 in number. When you think about it, I mean, you were born here, as you say, raised here, and you practiced as a social work professor, you ran a business even back in the days when you were. When you look at the university, where it is today, and just think of it as a sociological, shall I say, formation, and Mankweng as a town, what are your memories? I mean, you would have stayed in one row of houses when the township was established, and now look at it, it's become this expanse that goes as far as Boyne, that goes as far as Dalmada. Are there any special memories that you would like to share? You may use that.
I said I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, apart from what Prof. Mohalo looked like when he came into the township in 1967. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot I can share with you. Academically and socially, the community has changed radically.
Right.
The university has, in fact, the university has changed the way people live around here. It offered employment for most of our people. For instance, I had an incident as a young lecturer. I used to play Raba during lunchtime with the workers here and students. And somebody was sent by the rector to come and spy on me, whether I was not playing a dice or a gambling. But that somebody only told me 40 years after, when he was retired. He said, you know that I was one time sent to come and spy on you.
Wow.
Because the rector thought you were playing dice, you were gambling with the workers. Not knowing that I grew up here. Most of the workers were my contemporaries when we were looking after cattle. They were always my people, all the way. Whether I was a lecturer or a professor, but they remained my people. So this university has exerted a lot of influence in the area of Maroba.
All right. You used to play next to the student center, right?
Yes.
Is that under the trees there?
I used to play on the ground before.
Right. Mr. Mushobani
built
established the more decent. Okay. So whoever is playing drafts or whatever you play there, remember, he is the founder. You might as well name that corner after him. It's a court. You can call it Bupape Court. Eh? Because Prof. Mohalo, people still play some games there. I swear it's not dice still today. So it means the legacy lives on. Okay. Austovo, I think you have to say something, and then Comrade George, you are the last two. When you make your initial statement, please rather take the stage, because we need to get you in short. But what I admire about her is that she worked in the library, and Prof. Bupape, this is serious. She is an institution in her own right. The things I've heard about her. Yes, that's what I was told. You're an institution and you started something to digitalize the story of the university, just never got around to doing it. Please, share your memories and what this institution means to you. And
okay. I was born in Soweto, Mufula, and I went to university. I just jumped I went to Morris Isaacson, one of the schools that I attended. I see somebody nodding. And from there, I went to University of Zululand. That's where I studied library science. Actually, when we started with library science, people were just surprised, what's this? Because we were the second group. The first group was one person. She was Juliet Kuzwai. And then the second group was herself. We were three. It was myself, Edith Zinde. She came to work here, if I'm not mistaken. Zinde, yes. And she was married Mateu Kambule. She became Mrs. Kambule, yes. And we worked with other students. We had other students who were in the diploma of library science.
And once we break, go to 1994, we split. My vision of post-1994 may not necessarily be identical with that of For instance, I might have been angry that, well, I'm busy here, rearing my pig, I get money, but I want to go and go big. I'd like to go and open a shop in town and so on. 94 comes, then all these things become possible. My struggle is over. I may be having my doctorate, but then all I can become, I understand some time back at UNICEF, I could only become a senior assistant, not even a lecturer. Come 1994, now you can be a rector of VES, UCT. And now my struggle is over. But for other people, it's not over. That piece of land, nothing has happened. I still want my land. For the workers, the struggle has not ended, and so on and so on. And within us, we must start doing what since 1994 has happened. Now I can meet with my colleague there, the white colleague, and we can run our business together. We can teach together. But you are still making noise. You will still go on strike in my firm with him. We are going to deal with you. It won't matter you're black. You are threatening my interests. That's a reality. So that, and again coming to the Constitution, following what you're saying, our Constitution is an important document. We've agreed upon on it, all of us. But well, as you said, it's not permanent. And not only that's not permanent, we negotiated the Constitution. It means that some people gave in somewhere and get something, some give in one respect, and so on and so on. It's not really, I know we praise it very much, but it cannot be the best when there were give and take. Certain things have not happened. And for me, 1994, for me, well, I come from the ANC. When we unbanned my first secretary, I forgot, he was my secretary from the branch, Arnold. He was secretary there. I still have your card, with your signature. For me, it was saying that, wow, these negotiations didn't give us everything. But then here's an opportunity, which I must confess we didn't use. Not only the ANC, ASAPO, PAC, we didn't use that. Here for the first time, we can meet in a group of more than 5. I agree before it was trouble. We can now meet more than 5. Here's an opportunity, you can come and talk your black conscious ideology, your freedom charter, whatever. Yes, we can organize, we have structures all over the place, but we didn't do so. That's why today, other than having 3 organizations which were in the struggle, ASAPO, PAC, ANC, now we've got more than 260 parties standing for elections. It's not surprising. If you water your garden, not only your cabbage and spinach will flourish, there will be weeds coming up. Yes. And if you don't attend to them, they might even kill your cabbage and spinach. So the reign of democracy came along, and then we entered the era of politics. But I don't think that ASAPO, PAC, were just politics. Because politics, as I come to experience since 1994, is just talk. And talk is cheap. Anybody can form a party, nothing happens to you. But I think the PAC, ASAPO, ANC were in a revolution. That's a different creature. And it's dangerous. That's why you find that there were only 3. But today we are faced with a new situation, yes. The Constitution can help us, I think it's good, because if there are limitations, the Constitution has a provision. You can amend it if you go to a 2/3. You can even you can even throw it away. Sorry. But we are not doing it. Like the doctor says here, those who say the Constitution is not good, they don't point out where it is wrong and what should be done. Because they do that in the context of politics, just to get to Parliament. And then when you go to Parliament, what do? Parliament, you go there to debate. And you know, when you debate, you always want to win. We don't discuss the issues of the nation. Like when I grew up in a chief's cross, my grandfather, I used to attend that. They discussed the issue. There's drought this year. What do we do? There's crime. Step-stock, what do we do? Then not going there to quarrel that when now you are short, when now you beat your wife, no. But the parliament we're in now is a parliament of debates, not discussions. So that if Ramaphosa as president comes up with a position which comes from the ANC that we're doing this, and that there's Inkatha is listening, there's EFF, there's DA, they realize that, well, this person is coming with a good point, but then how do you oppose him? They're not saying, how do you support him? Then there's Julia stands up, he comes up with a very solid point, and Ramaphosa, yes, everybody in the ANC, yeah, but it's good. But how do you oppose him? Not that how do you embrace that particular position? Because we are in politics. We're not there to change anything. And when we are in politics, what happens that way? I'll go to a parliament, I'll go to the legislature. If I'm lucky or if I got connections, I become an MEC or a minister and so on and so on. When I get the department, I know nothing where I'm going. Then I link up with the DG and other people, and then we start, how can we make things happen? Because I'm there only for five years. So I must make sure that by the time I go out, I've got something in my pocket. So people who run our country actually are not politicians, want to be honest. The administrators, these guys come and go. And they don't know anything. I mean, why is it possible that today I can be made a Minister of Education? In the next term, I'm a Minister of Agriculture. Next term, and government moves. Sorry, can I summarize? All I'm saying that one blunder we made in South Africans is that after 1994, we didn't do what the Cubans did. Castro made sure that everybody, whether student organization, whatever, that was against Batista, you joined into one force and became the Communist Party. So that you're able to say, guys, this party has gone now. How do you go forward? Now, when you go 1994, Azapo there, ANC there, and we think we can move on. It's not possible. In conclusion, I'll request that, but you'll be going away not long. Whoever will come in, there are people, the civil service of the campus. Can you make sure that, not only that we got this occasion now, sustained on this occasion, but that you organize people who are alma maters here. It's not good enough to come and talk here. Can we start writing? And then have a journal that will, now and again, is published, full of this information. And could you sometimes call him not to, but maybe a quarterly lecture for the student in law, in social work.
Where is Advocate Rapasa? This is your heritage, Advocate Rapasa. You've got a commitment that you can have him on a quarterly basis. He can bring other alumni in the law faculty. And in a similar way, draw other people in commerce and draw other people in social work. That's why we started with the Grand Masters, because the Grand Masters are mature enough to not compete with anybody. They are not trying to prove their point or their worth. They know their worth. And therefore, when they give you something, it's because they mean to give. They're not trying to impress you. They're not trying to upstage someone. They're not trying to get a tender. They're not trying to get appointed as minister. They are not trying to get into DG's position. Therefore, you can trust their gestures. I'm asking you to really take it seriously, and that's why Prof. Mohalonga insisted on the faculties being here in their numbers. Prof. Twala, that's why you're here, so that you can start finding a way of tapping into the alumni. Our weakness as a university is we are not institutionalized in how we deal with our alumni. We are casual. On my part, I gave my word to the VC. I can have this on a regular basis, even on a monthly basis, because our alumni is that vast, and we can have various inputs. Dr. Msimeki can come in and bring, he was talking to me as we were coming here. They're peer counselors. People who, we still call them peer counselors. People like J.J. Taban were peer counselors when they were here. And they are gratitude towards the university for the chance it gave them to learn about work while they were still students. It's unlimited. But he's also a psychologist, which means he and Prof. Bopape can create something that will channel that kind of input into the university. We can go on and on about the possibilities, but I'm sure that we want to hear the voices of the students. And I know there are many student formations here, but let's defer to the SRC. Mr. President, you have been challenged, you have been encouraged, you have been motivated. What is your reflection on what you heard? Because the last word will go to Dr. Matsapola, and I'm not going to restrict everything to you, but I know that you're quite articulate and you can represent the views of your constituency. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Program Director. I think based on what I heard, and one thing that is extremely fundamental, that in a way I would like to just give my view on it, is the fact that if you look at all our Grand Masters, they have that historical background of having fought for a common vision or mission at that particular time, because like they said, the enemy was one, which made it easy for everyone to sing in the same hymn book, because you could understand that we must dismantle this system for us to get to a point that we want to get to as predominantly black people. Now, the situation is a bit different now, which brings in a totally different kind of criticism, because we can no longer sing in the same hymn book. In my view, it's impossible. Why? Because the enemy can no longer be categorized by the color of the skin. Which is why even at points where much as we are having common challenges as young people, without being political, Program Director.
No, don't.
You'd have people belonging to a certain political party protecting wrong things because they belong in that particular party. I was watching the news yesterday, and again, without being political, the president of the ANC Youth League was marching against the minister of police who belonged to the same political party. Now, if that was to come from all youth formations, whether it's the EFF, whether it's the Patriotic Alliance or whatever, there was going to be measures put in place to protect the image of the party by the same youth that is facing the same challenges. So the reason why we are disorganized is because much as we may think that the enemy is common or should be common, others will seek to defend the image of their organization. That is what is happening. Again, when it comes to maybe our electoral system, and one of the reasons why we see so many political parties, in my view and analysis, I think that to some extent, the constitution is also failing us. Because one of the reasons why this year we're having 3 ballots, so many political parties, the longest ballot ever, is because of a Concord judgment. and we are made or told to respect the decisions of the court, particularly the apex court, that said that independent candidates must contest. The same apex court is the one that allowed this mess of having over 200 options ahead of elections. In my view, that is not sustainable for our future as a country, and it is only going to create more problems. Perhaps we must think of a way of reconfiguring our electoral system. And by so doing, you are going to be able to easily distinguish between A and B. If you look at, I heard yesterday the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom saying that after consultations with the King, there's going to be a new date, 4 July, as a date for elections in the UK. It's clear for the people of the UK, much as there are many, they can choose between, what do they call them, the conservatives and the what? Only 2 options available. In the US, much as independent candidates are there, it's the Democrats and the Republicans. So you are easily able to identify a side that you want to belong to. But here, because of how things have been said and done, now we have so many options, we don't know what to do. Even if you are to say that as young people, let's take it to the streets and think of those who came before us when they took it to the streets to ultimately get to a point where they realize what they're supposed to realize. It is not going to be easy now in our case because so many options are available, different leaders. You're not going to listen to one person. A youth leader of this formation will come and say that let's take it to the street. The other one will say a totally different thing. So that lack of coordination, perhaps emanating from how things are in terms of the electoral system, is exactly what is killing us in the country. Apart from other smaller
but are you focused, Mama Bolo? Are you as young people, do you agree on what the enemy is? I'm not saying who.
To some extent, I can say so. And to just touch on the main question that you asked of saying, are you focused? When I was about to wrap up, I said, apart from other small politics are the things that are defocusing us. Like
are they small?
In the context of this session, they are small because we are not discussing the type of music that the youth consumes.
No, what I'm saying is if they are small, they wouldn't defocus you.
In the context of this sitting, program director, I think I don't want to divulge on them and get to them, but they are not small. Because
why not? Why not divulge?
Maybe in the interest of time.
No, Mama, you're playing me now. I'm saying to you, you had the elders here, the Grand Masters spoke. Some disagreed on certain points.
Yeah.
I'm asking you now. You, and as the student command, and Sasko, and do you have Paso? Okay, now, you're tripping. Boto, you're tripping. I'm saying to you, as young people, as students, if I put you into a room, he illustrated and said, take off your political and agree on what the problem is. For example, NSFAS not paying grants on time. That's a problem. He doesn't care if you are command or SASCO or you are SCO. So what I'm saying is, do the students now have that forum where they agree on what the enemy is, so that at least even if they change political colors, they will not lose focus and end up reversing the gains that they have made? Because Prof. Mohalung has made education accessible, right? That even when NSFAS does not pay, school continues. That's a gain that was made because he was running the institution and the SRC allowed him space to do that. But you can have such a counter-revolutionary SRC that reverses all those gains and takes him back where now, if NSFAS doesn't pay, nothing can happen. So I'm asking if you as students, irrespective of your politics, like he suggested, agree.
No, we don't. We don't. Yeah, in 30 seconds, we don't, going back to the point I made mention of, the fact that the ones who are, the current regime now, is also having youth formations that are, instead of speaking against, protecting the regime. That is exactly what is happening, and that is what is making it difficult for us to sing in one voice.
So we have solved for X, right?
To some extent, yeah.
Yes, thank you. We have solved for X. Any other question? I need to give the speaker a chance, make it crisp, and address the issues as you get on. Okay, pass the Shavira. I know that's Morore Sikukune.
Yes, thanks. The first question to the president is, do we know who the enemy is, or what the enemy is?
Yeah,
Beside having a collective decision to say, no, this is the enemy, or does he know what the enemy is?
Okay, hazard a guess, Morore.
Sir?
Take a guess of what the enemy is. If you say what, it will be easier, not who.
To my understanding, is the enemy is that apartheid never ended in 1994. Apartheid took a new form in a term called neoliberalism. And apartheid, a white government with a black face. That is our enemy. But then does he understand, or do many of the pragmatical politicians understand what is the enemy beside? No NSFAS, no Professor Mkhalo, no Security 123, and all these other elements we see in campus. We established an organization, as most of the students are called the Azanian Philosophical Society. I think it shares same sentiments as the BASA and what. We're saying those are political students who are not interested in pragmatical politics of dealing with this element, but then are interested in the ideological underpinning of things. We formulated this. That's why we discuss most of things. And when we get to engage more students who are pragmatical participants of this politics, student politics, they don't understand what they are doing.
Okay, carry on. Carry on. Okay, there was somebody at the back. I'm just trying, so make it crisp. Okay, Prof. Twala.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think we are on the right path. But the only thing that we need to do is to craft this path into the direction that we want to take.
Right.
There are good ideas coming from the floor. There are good ideas coming from the students' side. And then what we need to do is to think about a publication, whether it is going to be in a book form or in a volume whether it is chronological one or it is thematic one. But we need to think about that.
Okay.
My proposal in moving forward is that we need to have a steering committee that is going to propel that to realize it in the next few months in terms of the proposal,
okay,
as well as how many people will be contributing. When listening to the elders here, they've got good stories to tell. And then we are going to listen to the stories of the students also at the same time. But what we need to do is the how part. But I'm proposing as a way forward that we need to have a small committee in order to drive this project forward. But I volunteer.
I'll rephrase, yeah. I like the last part. So interim chair of the steering committee is Prof. Twala. He hosted an event not so long ago about Professor Chabane Manganye. So he knows what he's talking about. So you are the interim chairman. Take the contact details of these Grand Masters and let's move it forward. Okay.
Right, I'd like
Giorgio.
Maroba. I'd like to begin by greeting everyone in the house. My name is Lisebe Tumani. Ndingumqoqwa ndinguJojo ndinguzikhali nje ubesithi ubawo. First and foremost, I think I should express how one feels honored to be in this space, in this particular, or at this particular time, right? Much has been learned about the progress of our struggle, the progress of, say, our strides towards liberation, right? And I must say, it has been quite phenomenal, right? Much has been achieved, in all honesty. Okay, so at this point in time, we find ourselves at a position whereby we are trying to figure out now where to now, right? I think before we ultimately decide on where we should be heading, it is quite important for us to reflect on whether or not we are still within the paradigm that our very earliest ancestors that fought against colonialism were in, as they were ultimately struggling for liberation. In what sense? Haven't we lost our authentic definition of what liberation is? Our definition of who we are, and therefore what we should become, hasn't it been distorted along the way? I think at this point in time, we are falling trap into making it fashionable to mimic what other races ultimately hold dear, right? Yes, there was a point in time whereby we felt a need to Africanize the institutions that we found ourselves in colonial South Africa, right? But does that ultimately offer us an authentic and total liberation? I have a lot more questions than I have comments.
Yes, and you are a student of anthropology, so you will join Professor Twala so that you can structure this correctly, because I know we are not going to wrap up, and I wanted to cover as many people as
all right,
possible.
just
All
10 seconds to pass.
Yeah, you take the mic back when you finish, because we've
All right.
only had men speaking.
So, three questions that I hope that each one of us will meditate upon.
Crisply.
When did we become South Africans? Who sold us the possibility of being South Africans? Is being South African an ontology that ultimately offers us authentic and total liberation? Thank you very much, Program.
Got it. Okay, take it back there. Thank you. No, take it there, please, because we are suppressing the voices of women by not hearing them. I'll try and cover. Let me see. Anybody who's not going to sleep if they don't speak, because we have to wrap up, unfortunately. Anybody who's going to have nightmares if they don't sleep, if they don't speak. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if you can make it 1 minute each, we'll be fine. 6, 7. I'll come back this way. I'm going to go this side before I come back. Porto and at the back there. But finish. Make the point and then cross the floor, please.
Good
Literally.
day. My name is Kujo Sinyazi. I'm the chairperson of the University of Limpopo's Women's Academic Solidarity Association. I'm also an academic literacy lecturer in the Faculty of Sciences and Agriculture. And I would like to thank the Grand Masters for a very rich and affirming stories that you are telling. And I'm saying very rich because we can never escape the fact that we are a historically black university. And when our students come in as first years, they carry that history with them, making them believe that they may not get employment or they are not good enough to participate in the economy. So to make a change as a lecturer, we need to work on what we say to the students. Remember when we were also first years and students, we looked up to our lecturers. There's always a teacher that changed the way you see things, the way you see yourself, the way you do things. Let's be those people. And I'm very glad that you praised yourself, and I'll tell you why. You will never change anything if you do not have a strong sense of identity.
Right.
If you ever read I Write What I Like, you will definitely change the way you see yourself as a black person.
Excellent.
And him praising himself, he's taking all the strength that is in his lineage and DNA to move forward.
Yep.
I'm currently a PhD scholar. I gave my students an assignment. I said to them, 2 of them. Question 1, you go around the university, you look at the names that are on the buildings. You write a letter to those people. This prompts them to research about them. You write a letter and say to them 3 things that you are grateful that they did, that you were able to get access in this university and be what you are now and do what you do. The second one was, you go into your izitakazelo, ne?
Yep.
Or your family praise or your clan praise. You look for 3 things that strengthens your identity. Mine says, Kimushita means Amaleleman, means strong enough to defeat the flesh floods of the Molelemani River. It means as an individual, I can stand up against anything as long as I'm aware and I will be able to recognize the strength within. This, I said, once you write 3 things that you can change. You change within yourself, within the family system, within the institution where you are studying, and towards the country. They are science students. They should be scientists who knows how to produce African-based science. And this is because the higher education from the beginning focused on Western epistemology, Whereas we have African one that is very rich. And if we wake up to ourselves and then to what we can do, we grow. Now I come back quickly to Ulwasa.
Okay, please quickly, because I'm trying to wrap up. So
Yes.
when I said 1 minute each, I meant it, because we need to not lose everybody, because we will end up losing weight.
Thank you.
Yeah, and people are hungry.
Is a redress measure to give women access in research and scholarship. It started in 2007. The Vice Chancellor here, Paula Partha, we thank you very much for that, because you're always supportive, the research office, and most of the people. Half of the women in management currently in the university started from Ulwasa. We have Wuma Ditope, she's a HOD. We have a doctor, Dr. Sowa, she just recently graduated. What we do, we don't focus on politics. We focus on the skills that we need as women to progress as academics.
Right.
And then we work on those. So the enemy, my young students, is within. And if you don't wake up to that enemy within, you are not going to defend the revolution, because we do have revolution.
Okay.
Defense starts within.
The enemy will devour you. Okay, let's cross the floor. No. Go this side, Patrick. Quick. Because otherwise I'm left wing, or I'm right wing, depending on which way where you're seated. Start with Mr. Moloto there. He's our chief HR officer, so.
I'm going to be direct, and my question or observation is directed at Dr. Matsapola.
Speak into the mic, please.
Okay, am I audible now?
Now you're audible, yes.
Yes, I was a little bit taken aback when you were we were hosted by SAFM about the ruling of I think the High Court in respect of one particular former president. And you brushed aside the suggestion in acknowledgement that you were proven right. Are you at liberty to share that with the audience today? And if not, I'll respect that.
Okay.
Because it's a relatively sensitive matter.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Mhlalo. All right, move on to Neo. Is that Neo? Oh, okay. All right, next to Neo and then Neo.
Hi, my name is Tiamo Litsebu. I'm from Limpopo's Kukune, Magaladi to be exact. I'm so nervous, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll be fine.
Breathe.
So I would like to answer or to share my discussion with Dr. Matsapola. When I came in here, you were on stage and you asked a question and said, what happened? So like, what happened to the country? And I think that's what I'm most interested in. And I would like to say I stand to be corrected, and to anyone that I may offend, I apologize. I wrote everything down because I'm nervous.
Okay.
So personally, I don't think anything happened. In a sense that I don't think there was a point where everything was competent. I think things were just better. Personally, we were destined from the beginning to hike a bit and decline. We went from being oppressed to freedom in a blink of an eye. There were no leadership education, so our leaders were not educated with taking over the government. We took people who were good at fighting outside into running the constitution. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, don't
we were never
apologize,
exposed to too much money, but also during the then presidency, but also the then president did a good job at trying to build us as black people from nothing to something. But money started being a thing, and I speculate, I allege that perhaps towards the end of the term, they started having a hand. I don't think embezzlement started recently. It began slowly and got out of hand. Unfortunately, currently, it's even on the feed. I don't think the constitution is wrong either. I just think it needs to be adjusted and modified. The president is given way too much power, which is unnecessary in my opinion. Because we can't have a president that can just reshuffle the MP, sign bills, and I also don't like it when we keep on hiding behind apartheid. Yes, it was diabolic, it happened, it's our history, but our leaders have equally been incompetent. I was born in 2000, and let me say, I'm a 2K. I did not experience apartheid, therefore my grudge is with the government in power to be specific. Thank you.
All right, I like young people, they summarize so well. Thank you very much. No?
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Tapelo Nongwane. I'm a radical feminist. I have, I have a comment and two questions, and one question.
Crystallize them.
So my comment is the millions of South Africans who vote for the ANC are not stupid. And anyone who uses such terms to characterize them portrays their own contempt for our own people. It's an insult. I think what we should do is we have to revisit 1994 and understand what happened. What were we given and what were we not given? We always blame the ANC every day, the ANC this and that, the ANC this and that. So, in your right senses, do you think that the ANC would have fought and then to just come and fill the people?
Okay, good people. Okay, I will not have that. I will not have that. All right.
Thank you very much. And then my question goes to Dr. that during the TRC, reparations were never paid despite being one of the resolutions of the TRC. Then during the TRC, the late Archbishop Tutu begged Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela to apologize for her role in the brutal crimes committed by the Mandela United Football Club. This led to a shift of attitude in how we as South Africans view Bishop Tutu. Because Umama was an extraordinary woman, a true revolutionary guided by her great feelings for black people. She's one of the greatest revolutionaries that this continent has ever produced. Now, a notion comes that the ANC comrades betrayed Umama. If they did betray her, how do we then view the ANC leaders? Or are we as people trying to shift the blame to the ANC leaders, whereby Umama was indeed guilty? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for respecting one another. I believe you me, if you listen to one another, you'll find so much more than if you start yelling and heckling, and it's classless, to say the least. All right, who's next?
I am.
Okay, now I'm hearing voices.
No.
Go ahead.
Greetings to the sitting. My name is Muchizi Chifura, and as the speaker before alluded, I have to introduce myself fully so that you can know that I don't speak for myself only. I speak for those behind me. So, thank you. So, in answering, there was a question that was posed or a comment that was made as to who is the enemy now. I think we can all agree that we are not yet Uhuru as things stand, right? And the enemy takes on various forms where oppression is not directly against us. Rather, it is in the form of exclusion. So now we claim enmity to those who are within executive roles in this system that continues to exclude us as black people. I will now pose this question to the Grand Masters that are here. Uri, I asked this question in the words of Honorable Marcus Garvey, and he says, if we are to get emancipated, then we should agree that we must organize. If we wish to organize, then we must unite. I bring the question that how do we then unite or organize and relate to those who Thabo Mbeki calls counter-revolutionaries? Thank you.
Okay, last question. Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, I can't shut down Porto. Okay, let's go to the back first, Porto, you'll be last, all right? discuss with your neighbor so that you have one question instead of two.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Chairperson. I actually had more to say as a former student activist and also as a historian. But nonetheless, I will just restrict my views to one question, which is directed to Angel Pandela Novolovond. In 1974, the Mozambican achieved independence. And as part of that, the students' leadership of SASO, they decided to organize Viva Frelimo Rally because what happened in Mozambique, it was a source of inspiration and motivation to them. And after the apartheid system tried to stop the Viva Frelimo Rally in 1974, but they came up with their own tactics and it continued. And the Viva Frelimo Rally took place and they defied the apartheid system. So I just want to find out from Pandela Novolovode, because after the Viva Frelimo Rally, 12 of SASO leadership, which is, it was yourself, Mantu Maeza, Oprimo Kwape, Musiwa Lokota, Seth Cooper, String Molly, and others. I think you were 12, you got arrested and you were sent incommunicado for 4 months. And after serving that 4 months, you were then charged with the Terrorism Act. And to my surprise, out of 12, 3 of your leaders were actually released, were not charged with the Terrorism Act. Amongst that 3 is Cyril Ramaphosa. So can you please maybe tell us what happened? Thank you.
So let me ask, Chairperson, are you free to answer that question? Because you can answer. Okay. And then I will ask our guest speaker, the inaugural address Grand Master, to make very brief closing remarks, and then we are out. No, maybe come here and then you can usher him. No, it's fine. He will do it from here. Yeah, it's easier.
There's someone who asked about how it came that some of us were charged and that Cyril Ramaphosa was not charged. Now, there are some facts there which are not correct. Now, when we were arrested, we were almost any activist of the Black Consciousness Movement was in jail. All of us, except Steve Biko. That's the facts now, so that you can have a better understanding. Now, they arrested everybody. I can name them: Bani Pichana, Ben Kwapa, a lot of us, all over the country. And we were put at what is called Mampuru. It used to be Pretoria Central Prison. And that's where we were interrogated during that putting you in communicado where you don't talk to anybody. But I don't want to go into that, right? Ramaphosa was one of those also. This network, Young, he was also being put under those conditions. Now, when they have determined that certain people must be charged, only 13 of us were charged first. And as if those who are in law will tell you, you must ask them when I'm no longer here, that how when you sift, you get sifted sometimes by evidence. When the evidence is not strong enough, they can tell you you are now released. So what happened is that 4 of the 13 were together there, were found to have not much evidence, or there were no people who were willing to give evidence against them. There are two elements there. They might not have found a good story to send you to jail, or when they go around your friends, no one of your friends says, I want to come and make sure that he goes. So only us, we ended up being 9. Only 9, which included Helicopter, which you were bringing his story. Now, what happens then? We were then the 9s who were now charged with terrorism and other things, and charged also for commemorating and being happy. So we made the victory of Frelimo to be known throughout the country, and that disturbed the status quo. So we were happy somewhere here at a hall as students here also, being happy about the freedom of Mozambique. You must ask Dr. Matsapola. He might have put some placards there. I'm definitely sure one of the placards was of came from his hand, right? Which was, they were all over here on the campus. But let me finish the story. Now, what happens when you are on trial? Then after that, the rest of our comrades were released. Once they realized that we were these 9, the 13 first, these 13 first are the ones that we want. They released the rest of the people. Some of them, they made them state witnesses. I don't want to go into the names of those. Right? So, once that happened, and then the second issue was to lead some little evidence here and there, but then the 4 were released. We were then left being the 9. Now, when you are left that way, you are allowed by law. I want the story to be nice. You are allowed by law to ask the prosecution about people who are going to give evidence against you. Right? So we requested the prosecution to say, hey, we had so many friends here who were arrested with us, and we don't know what they told you about us, the 9. Now, because we are in the court process, we are allowed to exchange documents. Normally, this is how it happens. The prosecution will not give you those statements up until they finish their case against you. Are we together, those who are in law now? So they went on. When they finished their case against all of us. So when they finish their case, we can then access whatever document they had against us. And one of the documents is the one that we accessed of statements which were made by our Honorable President. I'm not going to go into the story. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tate Makhulu, you're the only Grand Master who said nothing. If I gave you a minute, would you allow us to wrap up, please? Definitely, sir. Okay, please give him the mic. Okay, quick. No, we are recording, remember, that's why.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Khumulswana. I want to acknowledge everybody here, including our Professor Mokhalung, the Vice Chancellor of the University, our guest of honor, Mr. Matsapola, Dr. Matsapola, comrade and classmate, or should I say, we're in the same area. The important thing for me today is that this was a coming together of maybe 2 or 3 generations. Those generations are from the 60s, through to the 70s. And we have the august persons who first attended this university, from Professor Bupape, going through to Dr. Arnold Msimeki, going through to Mr. George Mashamba, and going right up to you, Dr. Matsapola. It is a significant moment which we should really cherish, because it is a coming together that rarely happens. It's a coming together of many people from different experiences, and we are establishing an institutional memory here. The institutional memory of knowing what happened before, and therefore building on that going into the future. You cannot go forward unless you know what happened in the past. The important thing also is that we are hearing from the youth, from Mr. Tato Mamabolo, who is the president of the SRC, and other people who are here as well. I know there's another Tato who's probably the treasurer, I believe, of the SRC. The important thing is the meeting of minds. And it never happened before, at least at this institution. So we should cherish this moment and not take it for granted. It is not really an opportunity for any of us to be grandstanding on a political platform. We don't need that. We understand that the politics of separation have kept us separate. They have kept us separate. We should be together because we have a common enemy. And the common enemy is not an individual. Cannot be the president of the country. An individual. You cannot make a common enemy a party that you are against just because you disagree with them. The common enemy is helping our country to move out of poverty, illiteracy, destitution, and making this country the most livable one with all the minerals and the resources that it has. That it has. That's all I wanted to say. We should not miss the significance of this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, you answer from here crisply, please, and then we wrap up the program. Thank you, Dr.
One of the disadvantages of aging is that you don't have the required attention span when the meeting goes much longer. So I might not be able to do all of these things that you want me to do, like answer the questions, but I want to focus and have you focus on what the central issue is. I'm a member of the African National Congress, and proudly so. But the reason why I did not identify myself as the African National Congress is because the issues that we are facing are bigger than any individual and bigger than any one party. And the mission that the youth has to undertake is a mission that has no color. It has no affiliation. It is a national duty. So let me say this in answer. What I'm going to talk about in a few minutes to come will, in summary, touch on all the questions, but maybe in a general form. First of all, I want you to understand that the chairman of the council, that they follow vote. He must be understood properly. Some of you might have heard what you wanted to hear and not what he was saying. So I want to embellish some of the things that he said. The Constitution of South Africa is the supreme law of the land. What can we do with the law if the law no longer serves the interest of the people that enacted that law? It's to scrap it, right? But if you change a law, any law, if you change that law, we must first identify that which the law forbids us to do and thereby retard progress. So, if the Constitution retards progress, it must be scrapped. But before you scrap that Constitution, make sure that you identify those areas in that Constitution that retards progress. You cannot wash a baby in a bath, and when the baby is clean, you throw the water and the baby. It makes absolutely no sense. You take the baby out, dry them, put some Vaseline, then take the water out. So, let me go to my second point. As the youth, you must never allow yourself to be lured in a trap that will retard your own cognitive abilities. Don't allow that. Identify with your political party, but become an individual. I'm Maroba Matsapola before I'm an NHC member. You understand? And when I am in the ANC platforms, I do not speak different from when I'm with you. I speak whatever it is that I feel should be spoken or said. I don't fear anybody. No one tells Maroba Matsapola what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Maroba Matsapola is only persuaded by superior reason. If I'm with you in a discussion and you come up with something that's superior in reason, you have a follow. I tell you right now, you have a follow. So what I'm appealing to the youth, I'm saying to you, identify what needs to be done for the country to advance. Identify it. Take your regalia out and identify it. If it's economy and you feel like we must have economic freedom in our lifetime, that is a noble cause. No one in their right minds will oppose that. But once you try to impose your opinion on other people, that's when you lose support. Economic freedom, I will never, ever meet anybody, except maybe in a mental asylum, but I'll never meet anybody that will say, Maroba, I don't want freedom in my lifetime. I don't want economic freedom in my lifetime. I'm content with my poverty. No one will say that. You know why? Because it is a principle that must be achieved. We have to achieve that. And no one, I have to emphasize this, no one has the monopoly of knowledge of how to achieve that. Julius Malema, President Ramaphosa, the Grand Masters here, none of them has the monopoly of that knowledge, which means that knowledge has to be made a community property, intellectual property of the community. The only way we can do it is if we sit down calmly, without emotions, and say, we agree economic freedom in our lifetime. How do we achieve it? How do you achieve it? Then we start engaging one another on a national level, not as on the side, as a national level. Once we have identified that, then we know our purpose. Then we can now delve into the details of how do we move from here to economic freedom in our lifetime. If that's your mission, it's a noble mission. I support that. I don't know any other person in the ANC who doesn't support that. I don't know any other person in the PAC who doesn't support that. I don't know any other person in AZAP who doesn't support that. You are not unique by wearing a red shirt and say we want economic freedom in our lifetime. It is something that all of us want. And until you accept that and understand that, you will see how less unique you are. And therefore you will have less reason to defend something that is less unique. And attack other people who you assume are not with you. Okay. Now, there are certain principles that are universal. Justice, equality, freedom. These are enshrined in our Constitution. No one can say they don't want equality. No one can say they don't want to be treated fairly. No one can say they don't want to have justice. All of us want that. But you must say that this law no longer serves its purpose. Scrap it. But you must be very careful that you are not lured into a trap that makes you advocate for the amendment of the Constitution or scrapping of the laws in order to facilitate corruption, facilitate fraud, facilitate racist vengeance. By being a rainbow nation is not a theory, it's a necessity. We can therefore not exclude part of our nation and set them up for vengeance, cloaking it or putting a cloth over it that is acceptable. You can't. Either you are a revolutionary or you're not. Revolutionaries don't see color. Revolutionaries are people who are agents of change and transformation. You want to transform apartheid, you want to destroy its legacy, you do it in a manner that is respectable and honorable. BEE, for example. I know we can have all kinds of debates about it, but BEE, for example, is a law that says we want to transform the economy. We want to empower those who were locked out of benefits. That law favors black people. Is it racist? No. Is it honorable? Yes, it is, because it is necessary. But you do not say, I want BEE only if it benefits me. B has to benefit everybody, and we can have that debate. And I'm glad that you will be inviting me, maybe quarterly or something, to come and we can then compartmentalize issues. I can address the legal minds that we have and hopefully help to mold them. We can have a discussion with political groups in here because it is fundamentally important to have political cohesion. Not membership cohesion, political cohesion. And we can only have political cohesion if we talk to one another, not talk at each other. If we talk at each other, we will have what happened here. That's what's going to happen. I soga wena we mrembele. Oh, this other one say, I soga wena we chatterist, and so forth. Where do we end? Ndadama Kubu asked, where do we end? We must sit down responsibly and come up with young ideas. Now I'm out of the game. I'm out of the game. But you guys can come up with ideas that says, look, this BEE law doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. How can we make it work? This constitution, this part of the constitution doesn't work. How do we make it work? And you will find out. You will find out. Some of us found out in baptism by fire. But you will find out how much unity you have, how much agreement you have amongst yourselves with different colors. You will find this out. You will find that we are an ANC guy. How do you think this way? No, yeah. No, I thought you two were EFF and you wouldn't see this. But you will find each other. I'm saying this for the last time, and I'm leaving to sit down. The university is an institution where ideas must flow freely. Let me repeat it. The university is an institution where ideas must flow freely. All the inventions that you see on earth that advances civilization were born in universities. Person that came up with I remember, and you can agree with, when I first got here as a student, fresh from high school, almost expelled in high school because I hated my principal so bad, who happened to be white. I was immature at that time. But we had computers this big. This big. What was the name? Obed or some Cobalt, whatever the language was for the computers. Yeah, Cobalt. I was one of the people that said, no, if you use this machine, they're going to know what you think. And no, don't laugh at this, serious. I had people who actually followed me with that idea. They didn't interrogate my conclusion. I said, no, if you put information there, they're going to store it, they're going to get you. I almost failed statistics, because statistics, when we use these computers, I had to drop that class because I refused to go to the computer. How stupid is that 50 years later? But had someone come to me and say, Maroba, what is your fear? I tell them my fear is this. How do you arrive at that fear? I wouldn't have answered. But I was militant. And those who were behind me, we were all militant. Yeah, these things, no, we can go to hell. We were so stupid. Some of the things that we did were so stupid. I'll tell you another one and I'll sit down. Nevolo Voto and I, and Bo Dennis, we had a philosophy that said, and get ready to listen to real stupidity. We had a philosophy that said, don't listen to anybody over 30. Don't listen to them. They'll tell you about Bantustan, no, let them go to hell. We're not going to listen to anybody who's 30. Now, how stupid is that? Given the knowledge that you have about institutional memory, how stupid was that? So please, I beg you, find your mission. Find your mission, discover it. Then accept it and go and fulfill it. Fulfill it in any color you want, but fulfill it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Prof. Richard Madaji is our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning. We have some tokens of appreciation for our Grand Masters who are on this panel. Could they also be brought to the front, please? Prof.
Thanks very much, Victor. First and foremost, to thank you for running this program so well. Secondly, thanks go to the VC for his visionary and effective leadership, and especially for conceptualizing this idea, which today became practical. Thanks very much, VC. We'll also like to extend our thanks to council members represented today by Ntate Pandelani Nefolowodwe. He is a very good leader and a support of the university. Program director, you will agree with me that this seminar discussion has been very successful. It is due to the fact that we had a very good speaker, Dr. Matsapola. He was not only a good soccer player, but he's a very good speaker. I too also played soccer, but I'm not a good speaker. But in his case, a very good speaker. And we enjoyed your wonderful speech, Doctor. That also empowers us to navigate through life with a better perspective and much wisdom. We are today, I think, all of us wiser, and we can face any challenge that comes our way with confidence. Can we give him a big round of applause? Now, to all our Grand Masters, all of you have been equally impressive. And we have learned through your respective contributions that you have solidified the philosophy that with history as our foundation, we are our own knight in a shining armor. They also deserve a big round of applause. Lastly, of course, for a seminar to be successful, there must be an audience. You cannot speak on your own and achieve success on your own. It is for this reason that we like to thank members of executive management today, present here, all academics, students led by the SRC, support staff, the media, marketing and communication, officials and interns, and all guests from far and near for gracing this discussion stroke seminar. I think let's give ourselves a big round of applause for such a successful seminar.